Is it possible that we no longer believe in the importance of free speech? To find out, let's do a little remembering together here in Venice. Not long after the Gutenberg press got into high gear in the 1450s, a publisher in Venice announced his life's ambition to make sure that everybody who wanted to pursue knowledge, beauty, and truth could get his hands on affordable books. Until the supply is secured, he said, I shall not rest. The publisher's name was Aldo Manuzio, and he helped to launch a publishing revolution that laid the foundation for freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of conscience in the modern era. And yet today, 500 years later, many Americans, they've turned their backs on this legacy of liberty. I'm Joseph Loconte, an author and historian. I'm Italian on both sides of the family. I want to understand how we got this idea about the individual's right to speak his own mind, to publish whatever he wants, without the fear of being shut down by the establishment. That's why I'm in Venice. I'm not here for the linguine and clams. Something remarkable happened here in Venice, beginning in the early 1500s, an explosion in book publishing more significant than anywhere else in the world.
Ah, buongiorno signori, buongiorno, come stai? Come stai? Molto bene, grazie, grazie.
Well, you can see how small and compact this city is, and yet it supported nearly 700 printers and publishers. Based on Venice's position as a commercial empire based on trade, printing was a profitable entrepreneurial business. Just about anybody with money could buy a printing press and set up shop. Venetian women like Antonia Pulci competed right along with everyone else. They wrote and published books, worked as editors, illustrators, and proofreaders. Printers worked 12 to 16 hours a day, cranking out a page of type about every 20 seconds. And that's almost as fast as my supposedly high-tech home printer, which is reliably unreliable, I might add. Some historians estimate that the Venetians produced more than 35 million books during their heyday. The Library of Congress, by comparison, holds about 39 million books. Venice has always astounded foreign visitors with its canals, its waterways, its architecture, and its incomparable Piazza San Marco. But what really impressed the visitors were the books. Dozens and dozens of workshops producing books 24/7 at a pace unequaled anywhere in the world. The Venetians not only invented the modern bookstore. In Europe, in the 1500s, in the universe of publishing, Venice was the North Star. So, what were they publishing? Well, it just so happens we know exactly what they were publishing. Back in 1810, workers were poking around in the attic of the Basilica San Marco, and they found a journal, Il Giornale, belonging to a publisher. Inside was a list of book sales over just a 3-year period from 1484 to 1487. This guy sold 12,934 books just from a single bookshop. And this was not the thin gruel that passes for much of our publishing today. Instead, there were lots of books about mathematics, rhetoric, medicine. About 20% of the books were religious, Bibles and commentaries, sermons, writings of the church fathers. Another 25% of the books were classic works from the ancient Greeks and Romans, Plato, Aristotle, Seneca and the gang, along with medieval authors like Dante. And this is where Aldo Manuzio enters the story. When Manuzio arrived in Venice, the classic works of Greek literature, drama, philosophy, and history, they only existed in the form of handwritten manuscripts. In Europe, they were very hard to come by and very expensive. These classic texts could easily have vanished from the European scene altogether. But Manuzio is a man on a mission. He believed that the best works of the ancient world contained truths and ideals that were desperately needed in his world. And the reintroduction of these works, it would complement the moral vision of Christianity and encourage people to live lives of virtue and to pursue truth wherever they could find it. Manuzio was the first to print the complete works of Aristotle in Greek, along with the works of Sophocles, Euripides, and Plato. He established his Aldine Press in 1494, renowned for its commitment to excellence and craftsmanship, and recognized by its dolphin and anchor printer's mark. And that press was literally in that restaurant 500 years ago. The dolphin symbolizes intensity, speed, the anchor, deliberateness. And what came out of that is this entrepreneurial spirit that so typifies the Venetian people. Manuzio was an innovator. He learned through technology how to reduce the size of books, to put them down to kind of pocket books, the stuff we just carry around. And just about anybody could own a copy of these books and read them anywhere, away from the suspicious and prying eyes of the authorities. We're talking about the democratization of book ownership, and we can hardly conceive of how utterly revolutionary this was in the 1500s. I mean, think about it. The mass availability of these books, it represented nothing less than the liberation of the medieval mind. So even before the Protestant Reformation, the publishing industry in Venice has instigated a fresh pursuit for beauty, knowledge, and truth.
Disegna che se Dio scaricar. No, ma posso regolarmi? No.
Signore, it sembra pericoloso, a little dangerous. No.
Lovely. Naturally, the Venetians ran into opposition. Like elsewhere in Europe, unregulated printing, material that wasn't approved by the church or state, it invited censorship. The Venetian government had created a Council of 10, the official censors charged with enforcing orthodoxy and stamping out dissent. But the fiercely independent and always profit-minded Venetians mostly ignored them. You have to remember, half of all the books being published in Europe in the early 16th century were printed in Venice. The poor, hapless inquisitors couldn't keep up with them. Venice functioned almost like a year-long book fair. Bookshops became meeting places for authors and intellectuals, often filled with the sound of debates over the big questions of life. As historians have described it, freedom of the press in Venice was nearly absolute. Well, the Chinese were the first to invent movable type, so you might think that there'd be a thriving publishing industry in China. But that never happened, because the emperor controlled the presses, just as the communist government controls the presses in China today. My point is that the Venetians transformed the way we think about freedom of speech and the rights of individuals to express themselves in their civic lives. We seem to have forgotten that you can't maintain a free society unless you have intellectual freedom, because it's the foundation for our other rights and liberties. Thomas Jefferson, the father of the Library of Congress, put the relationship this way. If a nation expects to remain free and ignorant of its history, it expects what never was and never will be. The Venetians would have agreed with him. The first book published in Venice, for example, was a work from Cicero, Rome's greatest statesman. Like no other ancient author, Cicero devoted his political career to defending Rome's republican government against the forces of barbarism and tyranny. Publishers like Aldo Manuzio believed that European society was in crisis and that its immorality was offensive to a just and loving God. There is nothing left in man but the form and the name, he wrote. He no longer cares for honor or reputation. The Venetians sent a message to the watching world. Intellectual freedom was essential to the renewal of European society, and for publishers like Manuzio, that meant the recovery of the classics. For nearly 3 centuries, the Republic of Venice sustained a remarkably vibrant publishing industry. And its republican form of government was strengthened by its cultural commitment to truth-seeking that this industry created. Modern-day inquisitors, however, seem to have abandoned this outlook. They ignore the literary canon of the West. They've discarded the concept of moral excellence. They've lost interest in the pursuit of truth, and they're ignorant of the sources of our democratic freedoms.
It's just the blood and bone and sinew of this democracy that some great men handed down to the human race, that's all.
The new inquisitors follow the lead of the medieval book burners. They would banish every point of view that failed to conform to their blinkered vision of human life and human societies. They no longer believe in freedom of speech. Venice's premier publisher would have some strong words for them. Manuzio believed that books were an antidote to barbarous times. Well, I'd say that the barbarians are at the gates. As Aldo Manuzio put it, I do hope that if there should be people of such spirit that they are against the sharing of literature as a common good, they may either burst of envy become worn out in wretchedness, or hang themselves. Hang the censors, metaphorically speaking, and we just might save the Republic. Come on, guys. The attempt to squash free speech is something I never would have anticipated in the United States, because it's been such a precious freedom. And we seem to be in a place right now where we are ready to trample the rights of conscience, free speech, freedom of the press, for the sake of a partisan agenda. We've got to pull back from that brink. Let truth work its way into people's hearts and minds in the marketplace of ideas. Finito.